Thank you everyone for joining us today for the IO integration and North Plains webinar focused on the on-brand brand management solution. I'm Jill Talvinsari, and here with me today I've got Rory McClelland from North Plains, and we'll be going through the on-brand solution as well as the changes we're all seeing in marketing technology and marketing automation that's being used for this proliferation of content. IO integration has been helping the world's top agencies, retailers, and publishers since 2001. The company was founded in California by former Zynet, Apple, and Dahlem executives. And at this point in 2014, although we got our footing started in the print and pre-press industry, we now focus on marketing technologies and have a full professional services organization dedicated to helping companies do multi-channel content and delivery on any medium worldwide, any language. I'm Jill Talvinsari. I'm VP of Marketing here at IO Integration, and I have a background from Adobe and the Creative Suite, so creative workflow and processes are near and dear to my heart. And with me today, I've got Rory McClelland. Rory, I'm going to let you do your introduction.
Thank you, Jill. Yes, my name is Rory McClelland. I'm the product manager for On-Brand and Unify for North Plains Systems. I'm actually based in London in the UK. I've been working for North Plains for about 8 years now, sort of come through the development role into project, program, and finally product management. So I've worked very closely with clients. I understand very much the pain points that we're trying to address with our product lineup. And yes, it's great to be here today working with Jill. So I look forward to taking you through the application a bit later and giving you a live demonstration as well. Thank you.
Excellent. I'm excited to see it. On-brand is one of the most user-friendly tools I've seen. It's geared towards anyone from the marketing department and brand management teams through production to help them manage assets. So we'll be seeing that shortly. We wanted to give you a little bit of background, and so we'll go ahead and do that first. We'll have the live demonstration, and we'll have questions. You're welcome to ask questions during the session, but if you want to hold them till the end, we have allowed time for Q&A. And I just want to check. We've got one person with his hand up. It looks like everybody's okay. Okay, so moving on. So what's going on in marketing? We've all seen a lot of changes since the 2008 crash that forced pretty much every business on the planet to rethink the way that they communicate with their customers, the customer experiences they offer, and the different mediums with which we communicate with our customers. The proliferation of all this content has made it so that we've gone from having mass blasted campaigns down to true behavioral based one-on-one targeted marketing, whether you're on a website looking to find out the first bits about a product or service you're interested in, to the in-store experience where you're actually getting offered coupons as you're walking down the aisle, and things will even start coming to you on your phone. If you have an iPhone, iBeacon is being rolled out to American Eagle, Outfitters, and a few of the other big brands are starting to use that to target you literally as you shop and pass their doors. So technology is actually starting to drive these new conversations with consumers across every media platform, whether it be social, mobile, the web, wherever they're looking. Video obviously is very popular. Over 90% of initial product purchases and services purchases do start with a search on the internet. And this content's growing. So how do we keep track of all of these different assets and content? At this point, people are looking at how to handle terabytes of data. The most frightening statistic was starting about 4 years ago, since the beginning of time till then, content was doubling every 2 years. So what are we going to do with all this content? Ideally, as brand owners and marketing executives and production crews, our job is to reuse this content as much as possible, as effectively as possible, to drive sales. So we want to be able to find that content quickly and reuse it, repurpose it wherever it makes sense in a personalized, contextual manner. So even the NFL is pushing for this. They're actually getting a lot of competition from other types of sports names. We all saw the Olympics. You can see that Red Bull, GoPro, Under Armour There's a lot of brands that are trying to become lifestyle brands, if you will, and they're doing a great job of it. They are everywhere. And I think that's going to force a lot of our pro sports and other large brands and retailers to follow suit. And at the end of the day, every brand does need a one-to-one consumer relationship, ideally based on the behaviors and preferences true to your customers. So to monetize all this content, and we know that really good content sells, we need to centralize the media, all our content assets, build a global creative publishing platform, and enable all the online, offline, and social media to talk to one another, to get the feedback back from it, to adapt our campaigns and our conversations and make them contextual and get it back out there. Being agile has never been more important than before. We need to actually listen to our customers. That's part of this back and forth two-way communication that this technology enables. And that will enable us to deliver relevant, engaging, and interactive content. So to get the most out of your content communication strategy, you want to have this two-way communication. You can see going back and forth here between the data and information that we have in our asset management system, as well as the branded content, which sits outside of that and pulls from it and puts that out to our different populations and people we're trying to reach, whether they be on the web or on traditional media. Even if they're opening a magazine, a newspaper, watching a video, those are all customer experiences and points where we can touch our customers. So what IO Integration is trying to do is bring smart people and smarter technology to your marketing and production. And with these technologies, it will enable your brand to really engage with consumers, and they will really love your brand. And this is where I tell you a little bit about North Plains. Excuse me. So we've been a North Plains reseller for the entire existence of IO Integration since 2001. We started off as a Zynet reseller. We have over 400 installations worldwide and are one of the largest, if not the largest, Zynet reseller in the world. And North Plains has recently added a couple of more products, and On Brand is one of them we're going to take a look at together with you today. We're very excited about On Brand because it enables the full spectrum of the customer experience to be managed, both from the brand as well as to the assets, and all of those technologies talk together. So the mission of North Plains is to enable brands to connect, engage with people by unleashing the power of their visual media. And if you think about all the content, it's all visual at the end of the day. They've got a global reach, and they've got over 1 million active users and 1,400 installations. They touch everything from the creatives to production and marketing. And they connect your world, accelerating time to market and reducing the amount of time people spend collaborating and recreating lost assets. So in the production area, you can see it's design, capture, layout. They've got Telescope that also does the enterprise level of asset management, and then they've got Zynet that does the work in progress. On Brand's going to be more in this area of manage and leverage. And I'm going to let Rory go into that now, and where On Brand fits in with the Zynet and Telescope family of products, and to show how easy it is to use. It's a really beautiful interface. And Rory, with that, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Jill.
You presenter?
Yes, so hopefully you can now see my slide deck.
Perfect.
Great. Okay. So yeah, thank you very much, Jill, for that introduction. Yes, On Brand sits at the leverage end of North Plains's product lineup. So the idea being that you've created your content in Zynet, you've stored it successfully in Telescope, distributing it around the world. But at some point in time, you actually want to start getting value from the assets that you've created and safely stored. And this is where On Brand comes into play. On Brand allows you to very quickly and easily distribute assets out across the organization and even outside of the organization. And we'll look at how that works when we get into the live demo a bit later in the session today. So yeah, thank you all for your attendance. I'll take questions at the end, so please do feel free to pop them into the question box as we go. We've reserved sort of 10-15 minutes at the end to address any questions you may have. So I think introductions have already been done. I'm the product manager for On Brand and Unify. I'm responsible for, as product manager, the future success and future product direction in terms of where we want to take the product into the future. The sort of general agenda that I'm going to go through here is just give you sort of a bit of background about what On Brand is and how brand asset management fits into the real plethora of other acronyms that tend to exist within this market sphere. And I'll particularly focus on how this differs from DAM, because that is an area that is often asked, you know, how does brand asset management differ from digital asset management? And so, and therefore, how does Telescope differ from On Brand? So I'll talk about that for a bit. And additionally, how we sort of position ourselves within the market to really add an alternative sort of value that others don't. There are two flavors of on-brand and on-brand enterprise, so I'll take you through that as well, leading into some example clients, touching on both of the two different types and how they've realized real business return on investment from their investment in on-brand. And then, as mentioned, the live demonstration followed up by the question and answer session. So what is on-brand and brand asset management? That's the first question we have to tackle when presenting on-brand. So on-brand is an out-of-the-box product that is intended to be a brand asset management solution that's very quick to deploy, very quick to realize business benefit and to deliver return on investment very quickly. On that level, it's SaaS-based, so you don't need to worry about hosting. You don't need to worry about upfront capital expenditure. It's operational, and it's modular as well, and I'll take you through the modules. Some of the modules are part of the core product, the out-of-the-box product, and there are two that we offer that do require customizations, and that's part of the on-brand enterprise deal. Some of the clients who are using on-brand on screen now, so you will see that there's quite a wide range, and that's one of the beauties of having a brand asset management system is actually virtually all organizations have a brand, if not more than one, and that brand is very valuable to them, and protecting that brand should be important to them. So on-brand excels in doing all of that, and we'll see more of that later. So the modules I previously mentioned, there is a lighter weight asset management or DAM capability within on-brand. It doesn't compete with Telescope, but it actually delivers 80% of the capabilities at a much lower price point. So for many organizations, it's perfectly adequate. Supporting the assets are the guidelines, and the guidelines really are what differentiates brand asset management from digital asset management. And guidelines are supporting material around not only the assets themselves, but how these assets should be used and best use guidelines, for example. So imagine you had a set of fonts within the application. The guidelines would then give you guidance on when to use those particular fonts. The creative workflow module is a space where your users can come in and can collaborate and can work in teams to actually use the collateral that's in the system to actually produce campaign type projects effectively. So it's a lightweight campaign management module there. And within the system, there's also very powerful reporting to both allow an understanding of how the application is being used, but also at a management level to get a sense of the return on investment it's delivering. The optional print module allows you to take that to the next level. So not only working with your digital assets within a web environment, but being able to actually take that to the sort of the web to print solution. So realizing localized or customized print solutions and even digital web to flash as well. And additionally, custom campaign management solutions can be delivered as well based upon particular workflow requirements. And again, that's a custom module that we can deliver. So the asset management system built into OneBrand is enterprise search based. For the techies out there, it's based upon Solar. For the non-techies, what that means is it gives you a Google-esque type search experience where you can just type into a free text field. There are facets where as you click through, they automatically refine themselves. So what that means to the end user is it's very quick and easy, and within one or two clicks, you can normally find what you're looking for. It's intuitive. It doesn't require a huge amount of training, and it's very similar in feel to the experience they would have had on many other applications, like Amazon, for example. So it's a familiar and friendly experience out of the box. You can track asset usage. You can control access, so you can give different subsets of users access to different areas. You can share assets both within the organization but also externally using secure URLs that do expire automatically over time. You can create light boxes where you can share collections of assets, perhaps related to a particular campaign, or set it by type, for example. You can express an interest in an asset so that when somebody comes in and retrospectively makes a change, you are automatically notified, so you will receive an email, both within the application and into your email inbox as well, saving you from coming and looking for new things on a regular basis. You'll be notified instead. And the permissions model is role-based as well. So you can have default users, you can have editors and administrators, and that's configurable. You can create new groups as necessary as well. And when you upload, for example, a large TIFF file into OnBrand, it will automatically generate the derived files that are needed. So you can specify exactly what resolutions you're looking for. Perhaps you want a print version, a web version, but you can control that. You can specify what you want, but that's all done automatically. So the JPEGs are produced from that. And of course, the same for Office documents and for videos as well. As I previously mentioned, the brand guidelines is really what differentiates brand asset management from digital asset management. And it's adding value to the binary assets that are within the system that you typically don't get with a digital asset management solution. So giving context to the assets that are there, giving guidance on how best to use them, how other people are using them, what to do, what not to do, and providing a starting point for your users to go in and to understand the brand itself. So the example you can see on screen here is around the fonts. So the font files would be linked from this page, so you can very quickly download them. But then there's guidance perhaps about how to install them, how to use them, when not to use them, which ones to use in which circumstances, and perhaps also about why this font is chosen and why it represents the brand. So giving the users a good sense of how to use this collateral as well as not just providing it and serving it up. The creative workflow module is the collaborative area. So people can upload their own assets. They can bring in assets from the main library. They can then invite users to work on their project with them. They can annotate. They can comment. There are discussion threads. They can create tasks and assign those tasks with deadlines to other people within the project. And they can upload a creative brief as well. So the thinking there really is that there is a campaign that you're working on with some colleagues. You have a space where you can keep all of your work in progress collateral together. The workflow ensures that everything goes through correct approval. And only once everything is ready do you actually then run the print or actually run the campaign itself. And we'll look again in the demo. We'll focus on this particular area because it's one of the main sort of real powerful features within OnBrand. And the reporting as well. We'll have a quick look at the reporting and how you can export custom data and get a real good sense of how the application is performing and how users are actually using the application and which assets they're using. I won't be demonstrating the dynamic publishing today because it is a custom module, but this allows you to produce from InDesign a template with controlled areas that you can allow your users to edit. So for example, you may have a poster that is a standard design, but you wish your end users, the example I always give is perhaps you're running a service station for cars and you wish to enforce brand consistency in terms of how that poster is displayed. So you don't want people, for example, changing the logo or the font or the colors, but you may want them to be able to choose which products are on special offer and determine the price, or maybe just something as simple as changing the address on a mail out, that kind of controlled change. So it's empowering the lowest level of the organization to use their initiative in terms of marketing, but ensuring it's done within a brand controlled environment as well. And the campaign management is really for organizations who want something more fully featured than the one built into the out-of-the-box product. And this allows us to actually do completely custom workflows to exact client requirements. So what is brand asset management? This is the core questions, and what are the similarities and differences? So digital asset management stores all of the collateral an organization has. Brand asset management differs in that it's typically a subset of that, and it's a sort of curated set. It's approved brand assets. So it's the final logo, it's the final font, it's the single point of reference that you go to find, to be certain that you're working with the latest version, to be confident that you're using the correct collateral. So it's all around compliance, really. And it's ensuring that when people do use the assets, you can be sure that they have agreed to the usage rights, that they are aware of the context in which this asset can be used, which markets, for example, when it should be used. Perhaps this shouldn't be used where the audience would include under 18s or 21s for the Americans, where children would be present. So it's the compliance and the single point of reference for the brand collateral that really differentiates brand asset management from digital asset management. So think about the sort of example of sort of the artwork that would be used on packaging material, on company letterheads and business cards, flash video, YouTube campaigns, for example, things that you're pushing to Facebook perhaps, and you're beginning to get the sense of where this collateral would be used. So combine that with the best practice guidance, the powerful search, and the collaborative capabilities, and you have a single go-to point that the organization as a whole can use to be confident they're using the correct collateral in the correct way, in the correct markets at the correct point in time. And that's the true value that OnBrand brings. There are additional benefits in terms of preventing asset misuse, and for many organizations this is actually where the story starts. They're finding that they are producing duplicates of many assets. They are not reusing material that they have had produced in one market that could have been reused in a different one. So often the discussion starts around the financial savings, the distribution, the reduction in misuse and the reduction in reuse that really sort of drives the argument from a financial point of view. So the ability to distribute across the internet, for example, the ability to ensure that you're being compliant with legal guidelines, and the ability to actually repurpose material that's already been produced, but ensuring that you don't breach the original arrangements, the agreements. All of that is part of brand asset management as well. So who are we typically talking to? This is often a question that's asked as well. Who's interested in branding? And whereas to contrast it with digital asset management, where you're often talking to quite a technical crowd, typically the IT department or perhaps the CTO, with on-brand and brand management systems, you're normally talking to the CMO or the brand manager or the person who's responsible for the branding, the digital managers, the creative director. So it's pitched at quite a different level. It's quite a different discussion that you're having. And it's very much targeted at the business pain point rather than being a feature checklist type product. And every decision we make when we develop on brand, we always take it back to the end user. We want it to be as simple as an intuitive and an enjoyable experience to use. So we really do focus on the pain points and the end user when designing the application. So I'm going to take you through now some of the example clients who are using OnBrand, and I'll talk to you about sort of the benefits they've realized from it and the particular variant of OnBrand they're using. So Distel is a great example. Distel is an example of a company who the Distel brand is effectively an umbrella for many different brands. So they are brand guardians, as we like to call them, for over 75 brands based in South Africa. It's an alcohol manufacturer. So they needed a single centralized location where they could go to manage all of these brands um, in a consistent manner without sort of the headaches that they had previously with many different systems. So on-brand is multi-brand enabled, and I'll show you this later, which means that each of the brands within on-brand could effectively have their own home, their own portal, and each of those portals was branded according to the brand guidelines for that particular brand. So looking at the brand on this slide here, Amarula, when you went into the Amarula brand, you got a very Amarula feeling experience with their fonts, their colors, their design work and logos. But if you went in under a different brand, you would get a contrasting different brand experience. And some of the users within on-brand may only work with one of the brands, but some of them may work on two or three or even all of them, and they could very quickly switch between those. So it was a single application that could successfully and efficiently manage all of those brands within a single application. And here's just an example of some of those brands we can see here. And you can see very quickly how each of those brands really has its own look and feel. You would never be in any doubt as to which one you're in. But this also helps drive user adoption. If you have employees who have been working with a brand for a number of years, they really do build an affinity with that brand, and they feel it as part of their own. So by making the application really feel like it's part of the brand and adherent to the brand guidelines in itself, it helps reinforce the message of the importance and value that brand brings to them. Another example is the US Army. Now this is an example of on-brand enterprise where they've done a degree of customization on top of standard on-brand. So this is quite a lightweight customization, but they needed, because they were sort of very focused on logos, they needed a dedicated logo finder. And this is the on-brand portal you can see here. So you can see that it has a slightly different look and feel to stock on-brand, the out-of-the-box version. So that's one of the customizations they've done. And additionally, they have this extra page that is purely driven around finding logos, which is a big part of their user story. Exelon is another great example, and the reason we like Exelon is because it really demonstrates how on-brand can deliver real business value very quickly. And Exelon, with minimal training, effectively rolled out to over 10,000 users within just the first few weeks of going live. And they did that by on-brand uses a self-registration system, so you don't have to go through the painful journey of creating all those accounts in advance. You can send out a link and say to everybody, hey, we've got this great new system, come and sign up. And then they go in, and because they've proactively started that engagement with the application, they're much more likely to see it through. Of course, there's an approval process on the actual account creation, but it allows you to roll out the application with minimal management overhead in a very short time frame and start to realize real business benefit very quickly, and return on investment too, of course. And here's the Exelon look and feel. So again, a very different look and feel branded to their brand. The final example I'm going to show you is the BBC. Now this is the other extreme of on-brand enterprise, where they've taken on-brand but done quite extensive modifications on it. And we'll look at, when you see the screenshots, you'll see quite how different it is from the standard on-brand experience. But the BBC needed a very specific approval process because of the nature of the collateral and that they're dealing with, and the sensitivity that the television material sort of dictates that you enforce. So they came to us because they could take advantage of on-brand and take the benefit that that brings out of the box, but they could use that as effectively a launch pad to then deliver all the custom functionality that they needed as well. So kind of the best of both worlds. They could start with an out-of-the-box solution, but could still extend it and deliver all the functionality that they did need, that they couldn't find in any given out-of-the-box solution. So here's a screenshot of the BBC application here. And you can see that it does differ from on-brand quite considerably. But the nature of on-brand and the way that we've built it does allow us to take it to this level of customization. And you can see that the workflow they have, rather than being the standard 3-step one that OnBrand has, is effectively, it's about 27 steps. Each of those blue or grey circles at the top has an equal number of stages underneath it. So you can see that they do have a very complicated workflow model in use. And their compliance requirements were also very strict. So we delivered custom compliance reporting capabilities for them too. So that's the slide deck done. I'm going to jump into the live demonstration now and show you OnBrand in use. So first thing I'm going to do is, this is the, oops, let's just jump back. This is the landing page. When you first log into OnBrand, you come to your own custom dashboard. And this is where you can configure the view of OnBrand to give you a really good, strong sense of exactly what you want to see within the application. However, I'm going to park this for now and actually move into both the first the brand asset management section and the guidelines, and then I'll come back because I think it will have more context once you've seen the other two areas in action. So jumping into the brand area, this is the lightweight asset management capabilities within OnBrand. Sorry, jumped into the wrong section. This is the lightweight asset management capabilities. So the first thing you'll see here is that you've got this beautiful interface, and you can see immediately through the previews exactly what's going on. When you upload an image into OnBrand, it will derive all the files that are needed automatically behind the scenes, so you don't need to worry about creating the different versions or derivations of the file. You have your search capabilities on the right here, and these are the facets that I talked about previously. And what I mean by that is you can see straight away, if I were to click on limited usage rights here, it would return 2 assets. So from the end user's point of view, that means that there are no dead ends. So as soon as I click on limited here, it will automatically remove all of the other facets that would have resulted in 0 results coming back. So there's no way now that I can actually get 0. I can only drill down further. So it's a way of ensuring that the user doesn't run a search and suddenly find that there are no results returned, and they don't understand why. I can use this in addition to keyword search here, which will also auto-complete. So for example, if I start typing Diageo, it will very quickly narrow that down, and I can just jump straight into the one I'm looking for. Going into actual preview mode for that asset, I can go into a full screen preview, at which point I can read the contents. I can see all of the working metadata for that asset here. I can see that this is a PDF, for example. I can see who created it, who is the owner of this asset, who to contact if I have any questions. I can see the compliance type information here as well. So I can see that there are restrictions on the use of this asset. And the text here is custom per asset, so I can see that I need to contact this email address before using this asset, but I could put any text I wanted in here. Additionally here, I can actually rate this asset, and this is where user feedback starts to come into play. The rating of assets helps drive the search relevancy, so assets that are more highly rated by the user base will return more highly in the results set. Again, it's just a way of ensuring that the most relevant content comes back quickly. I can share assets from here as well, so if I click on the share button, I can share this with somebody internally. I could type in a username, for example, and share it with them. But additionally, I could actually put an email address in here as well. And by clicking send, that would actually send an email to that user, and they could follow that link, and even without an account, they could come and view this asset. So it's the way of, in a very secure and controlled manner, allowing people who don't have access to the application to come in and to download and to view collateral as well. So the use case there would be perhaps sharing out to a third-party agency where you want them to work with something to make some changes, for example. You can do that with an OnBrand without actually giving them access to the application itself. There is also a concept of a watch list. So if I add this asset to a watch list, should somebody come back later and make further changes to it, I will receive an email automatically. which means that I don't need to come in every time just to look for changes. I can be confident that anything I'm interested in, when it changes, I will get an email sent through to me automatically, and I will get that as soon as it's ready. The final feature here really is to add to collection. I can create collections of assets. I can create existing collections, or I can create new ones, and I'll show you how to do that when I jump back to the main asset library in a moment. I can additionally, under these tabs here, see that there are linked assets. I can unlink assets and I can add new ones. I can also see which articles, brand guidelines articles refer to this particular asset as well. So within a single point of view, I can get all the information I need about this particular asset. So jumping back into the search results page, from here I can start to create collections, for example. So if I choose let's do bottles, shall we? So I'll choose some bottles. And as soon as I select assets, you'll see that at the bottom here a bar pops up offering add to basket and add to collection. So let's just take a few more. And once I've got all the bottles, what I'll do, I'll select add to collection. I have existing collections. I don't actually have any. I have invited collections, or I can create a new collection. So for this demonstration today, I'm going to create a new one. And rather creatively, I'll call it bottles set. I have the option of making this collection either private or public. The difference here being that private is just my own collection for my own private use, and public I can make it available to everybody within the within OnBrand as well. Private collections can, however, also be shared with individuals, so we'll do that to start with. So I'll create the collection. OnBrand behind the scenes creates that collection for me. It adds all the bottles. So I can then go to the collection itself, and you can see there are the bottles that I have added. So I have the options to either delete this collection or share the collection. And a lot like the asset itself, I can add either a username here or a user's email address and actually share that with them, and they can come and see the collection from the email that they would receive. By toggling to public, that then becomes available to anybody who's logged into OnBrand. Not publicly out on the web, of course, but within the application itself. By changing privacy, that becomes public straight away, and I can change it back to. Within the collection, I can also add supporting files. So I could upload something from my desktop. That file would exist within the collection only. It wouldn't go into the main library. So the only people who would be able to get access to that were people I had shared the collection with. And it's a very clear distinction between an approved asset within the library and a supporting file within a collection. Any user within OnBrand can upload assets. However, there is a workflow in place to ensure that only assets that have got the correct metadata and have been approved make it into the library. So I can upload assets. An editor within the system will be notified that there are new assets waiting approval. I'm expected to provide bulk level metadata, but then the editor will provide the final level of metadata as well. So there's a whole asset ingest workflow that's part of the system too. I'm going to just skip over that today because it is a relatively time-consuming process and we don't have a huge amount of time. However, if that's something you're particularly interested in, please do let myself or Jill know, and we can contact you again to demonstrate that in a separate session. The final area within the asset library I need to show you is the bulk download. So let's pick the barrel photos, or just some photos generally this time. So I'm going to pick up 3 photos that I like. And what I can now do in bulk, I can add these to the basket. And you'll see that within my basket here, I can see the 3 assets. So I can now order these assets. And what you'll now see is that each of these assets, for each one I can specify which size I want. So I'm going to specify the low resolution, the web one here, the medium one here, and actually the original file here. And then when I'm happy, I click order now. And that goes away, and behind the scenes it will create the order for me for download later. And again, once that order is ready, it will automatically appear in my inbox ready to download. So I don't need to wait for it. So let's now talk about the brand guidelines for a bit. So the brand guidelines is an area where it's editable by administrators and by content editors. but it's probably going to have a sort of a lower rate of change. So this is where you can really represent the brand to the organization and the users of OnBrand, a place where they can come to and understand what the brand means, how they should use the collateral in the system, and the best sort of guidance as well. And the whole information architecture here, from the top level, demo introduction, identity guidelines and best practice, the second level, the on-brand product tour, and the third level is fully configurable by an editor and can be changed very quickly and easily. So this is really an open-ended space for you to put whatever kind of information you want in, to link to assets within the system, and create a sort of a portal area, if you like, where users can come in and really get a sense of how the brand works. And the configuration options are quite powerful. So for example, on the previous page, I had a sort of a vertical drop down of all the different images. Here I actually have a slide deck, and I can toggle through those very quickly. The final area that I really do need to talk about is the workflow area. And this is the collaborative area, and this is where it gets really quite functional and interesting. I've created a project in advance here for this presentation to save us a bit of time, and I've already added a set of photographs from my own desktop here. So within the project area here, this is a space where we can collaboratively work on assets. So for example, if I open this one here, I can start to annotate this. So if I click on Add Annotation, it fires up here, and I can very quickly um, start to add comments for the other people who are working on it. Oops. For example, like that. When I'm done, I simply save changes. That goes away. And now within this view page, I can hover over the annotations and actually see those annotations. And you'll see that there's also kind of an audit trail here. So every time any change is made, any comment is added, it appears here automatically. So what I'll now do is I'll add a comment on this saying, my feedback is in, please review. So now there's a general comment against this asset for the next person to say that actually I've given you my feedback. So what I now need to do is to actually go to activity and members. I need to add some additional members to this project. Oops, sorry. Add members. Let's add Mike, my colleague, for example. I click add. Mike appears here. I save changes. So now I have a collaborative environment, and Mike is working on this as well. So I'm going to create a task now for Mike. So there's one overdue. Okay, so let's create a new task. Task review changes. I need this done by Friday. And I'm going to delegate that to Mike. Add. So now suddenly there is a task for Mike to review changes. He will have received an email. He will know that it's due by Friday. I can see that it's assigned to him, but he's not yet done it. So there's a whole task management capability built in as well. So Mike will come in, he will review my comments. He may disagree, he may add his own. And once we're both happy that we've completed that review process, we can actually then progress that asset onto concepts, which will enable the design agency or whoever's working within the project to actually start to produce the ideas, to produce the collateral that's needed. Within this area, there's also a complete discussion area. This is sort of a full threaded discussion. So if I had 20 people working on it, we can use this as a forum to have open-ended discussion around it as well. However, we're running a bit tight on time, so I'm going to jump back to the dashboard now and actually show you how this works as a single point of go-to information when you first hit the application, to really get a sense of what's going on and to customize the experience that you're getting. So the dashboard you're seeing here is the default one that ships with the system. And it's showing things like the latest assets that have been added, the most popular assets that are in the system. It's showing assets that are on my watch list, so these are ones that I've elected to be informed about when they change. Saved searches that I've created. There's a Twitter feed here that's showing me everything with the keyword North Plains in, for example. And also just a breakdown of the assets within the system to give me a sense of what's going on. So that's sort of a great starting point. However, what I really want to do here is customize this experience to make it really my own. So let's create a new dashboard. So go to the dashboard, and what I've now got is a completely blank dashboard to really start adding my own things here. So the first thing I need to do is to toggle it into configuration mode, and you'll see that there are two types of widgets that can be added to the dashboard. There's 2 column wide and 1 column wide. So let's jump in and say my latest projects here. And we can see that there's the project I've just created. Let's have my watch list, and there's the assets I'm watching. And let's say my tasks, although I don't think I actually have out any tasks. We'll soon find out. Oh, there we do. I do, and you can see that it's 22 days overdue. Let's add popular assets here, and let's add latest articles here. There we go. So very, very quickly, I've created my own dashboard. And additionally, I can actually configure these as well. So I actually want to see 8, I think. Hopefully there's 8 there. Oh no, there's only 4. That's a shame. But yeah, very quickly I can configure these widgets. I can control the dashboard. I can drag and drop them around to reposition them if I don't want them where they are. So I can very quickly change them. And I can have multiple dashboards. So if I sometimes come in as a consumer of the collateral within the system, I can create one like this. If, however, I come in sometimes as a more of a content approver, I could create a second dashboard that is targeted at showing which assets are awaiting approval, for example. And the real beauty with these widgets is that they can be customized. They can be created for a client outside of the release cycle of OnBrand. So if there isn't one that actually fulfills the need you're looking for, that can be created as part of a services arrangement. So we can use this dashboard service, this dashboard capability to deliver a very sort of fine-grained, high-level degree of customization for a client as well. So it's a very powerful feature we've recently added. Okay, so the final thing I really need to point out is that on every page of OnBrand, underneath your username, there is help always available, and also shortcuts to the main user-centric functionality as well, of course, along with the standard logout functionality. Okay, so I see that we now have approximately 10 minutes left for questions, which works perfectly. Hopefully that's whetted your appetite, given you a good overview of the capabilities of the system and the reach that it has. And as I previously mentioned, if you are interested in seeing more of any of this functionality in a sort of a more higher degree of depth, then please don't hesitate to contact us. We're very happy to take you through that. So Jill, I'll pass back to you now, and we'll go into our question and answer session. So all that really remains is for me to say thank you for your time with the presentation here, and let's look at the questions and answers questions you now have.
Okay, thanks so much, Rory. That was a really good overview. Let me go ahead and take back control of the screen. If anyone's got any questions, if you'd like to go ahead and put them down in the chat window, we are ready to go. I think one of the first questions was regarding the workflows area. Is there any type of Adobe Creative Suite integration or template design? How is that handled?
No, there's not, sort of by design, because that's exactly what Zynet does. However, Zynet and OnBrand can work together. You can create your collateral in Zynet and push that automatically or manually into OnBrand. So it's been designed so the two products do work together, and that's something that if you're interested in, we can go into more depth. But no, we sort of draw the line. OnBrand is about the leverage of the assets, and Zynet is about the production. Great question, though. Thank you.
Okay, if I'm an agency, can I have a segment for each client that keeps all assets, privileges, views, etc. separate by client?
Yes, you could. We sort of refer to the multi-brand capabilities of OnBrand. However, really they are just subsets of assets that are exposed to subsets of users. So you could use that multi-brand capability to deliver exactly that kind of requirement, that functionality, I should say.
Okay. Is there any kind of minimal template design, or it's all purely done in Zynet?
Yes, the actual production would be done in Zynet, and the ingest would then be handled by OnBrand. OnBrand is about taking advantage of the collateral that you have produced and exposing that to a wider audience. So really getting value from the work that has been done in Zynet and facilitating the exposure of that through the organization and externally. Thank you.
You showed some of the annotation. It's able to be
Mhm.
happening on different individual assets as part of the workflow. Can you go into a little bit more detail on how the actual approvals of yes or no, or say if I had an asset that had royalties associated with it, how that would be approved for use?
Yes, when you ingest assets into the system, you can specify that there are constraints against this particular asset, and there's a free text field where you can specify what those constraints are or what the user needs to do. You can additionally specify an expiry date for that asset upon which the rights expire, and you can also link the actual agreements to the asset as well, so that people can refer to them as and when. The actual workflow area is more about running campaigns using the assets and is a three-part workflow step. So you have your initial idea generation based around the brief. That can be iterative with back and forth as much as necessary, through to design concepts and then into fulfillment once that's been approved. And if you do need a more comprehensive workflow model, that's where on-brand enterprise can be used with the campaign management capabilities it has. That's a really great question. Thank you.
Okay. Were there any more questions? Oh, are video annotations per frame possible?
Yes, it can be done as well. Video and Office documents and PDFs, for example, are all handled by the system.
Okay. How about websites?
You couldn't put an entire website into OnBrand because it can't really be packaged into a file as such, but you could certainly have screenshots of a website. And if you really wanted to, you could zip your websites into a compressed file and store it there, but it's not intended to be a web management tool.
Okay, but in terms of reviewing and improving, a new website on a staging server, that could happen in here.
It depends what you mean by a website. If you're referring to the information, the collateral that the website is displaying, so the articles and the assets, then certainly OnBrand could be used as a staging approval tool for that. But no, it's not intended as a staging server for a public-facing website.
Right.
If that was required, an integration could be done. It could be used as the back office to a public-facing website. And one area I didn't touch on is that OnBrand is actually built on a more generic platform that North Plains has called Unify. That does allow us to use OnBrand in combination with other web applications as well, empowering integrations and the ability to have multiple web applications within a single instance. And if you wanted to have that kind of setup, then please do to come and talk to us. That is something we can do, and OnBrand would be part of that solution.
Okay. And what about Swift files or Flash? Are those handled or HTML files?
Swift files can be handled. We're currently looking at HTML video as well.
Okay. And how does this work with mobile? Are there any mobile interfaces? You showed the one social interface. Can you talk more about that?
It's the interface of OnBrand is responsive. It is designed to work on tablets. However, due to the nature of the type of operations that are happening, we don't explicitly design it for mobile phones or cell phones. It's something we will be looking at in the future, but currently, yes, it works perfectly well on a tablet due to the responsive design of the interfaces. But we don't really see that as a primary use case because it's about utilization of content and download. We don't really see that as a primary use case. But if that's something that you would be interested in, I would be very sort of happy to hear about how you would like to use that. That's something that would be of great use to me.
Okay. Are there any more questions? Oh, yep, any more. So, but the one question about the use of your tablet or mobile device to access on brand, a lot of times brand managers want to do workflows and approvals on the go. Can that be handled?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, on a tablet, I wouldn't recommend it, particularly on a mobile phone. I think that might be pushing it a little bit, but certainly on a tablet that could be done. Yes,
Okay, and just to clarify, does the commenting on videos and interactive Swifts take place on a per frame basis or the overall asset?
it's the overall asset.
Okay, so you can't go frame by frame.
No, you can't currently.
Okay.
However, the system does create storyboards automatically, but they can't be annotated. It's really just a view. It's a great feature request thing. Thank you.
Yes, and actually, IO integration has an integration between Zynet and a product called Approve, which does do that on a per frame basis. So I'm sure we could work something between on brand and Approve as well if there was a need to handle other asset types quite easily.
Indeed, absolutely, yes.
Okay. All right. And with that, everyone says thank you, and we're just about at the top of the hour. This was a wonderful overview. Thank you so much, Rory, for your time today, and thank you
You're
everyone for
very
attending.
welcome. Indeed, yes. Thank you everyone for your attendance, and please don't hesitate to contact us if you would like to see more.
Okay, great. Have a great day, everybody.